Welcome to this video supplement where we will consider solving quadratic equations by completing the square. We are going to look at two examples of solving equations with completing the square. The first is on the screen right now. So first off, what we want to do is get all the variable terms on one side. We'll subtract 10x from both sides. And the number, constant-wise, can remain on the other side. One thing that's nice if you're just solving an equation by completing the square is that we can go through and build a 1x squared. So in this case, we'll divide everything by 5, and we'll have x squared minus 2x is equal to 3/5. At this point, we complete the square. So what quantity, when we square it, gives a first two terms of x squared minus 2x? And as we've seen, we simply take half of the number attached to x. So in this case, it'll be a minus 1 that goes in our parentheses. Now, if we were to FOIL out the quantity x minus 1 squared, it would become x squared minus 2x plus 1. So we add the 1 in on the left. And to keep the equation legit, if we add 1 on the left, we also have to add 1 on the right. We'll build the common denominator. So this is really 3/5 plus 5/5 over on the right-hand side. And what we have at this point is that the quantity x minus 1 being squared is equal to 8/5. Now we take the square root on both sides. And when we take the square root of a fraction, that really means we take the square root of the numerator divided by the square root of the denominator. And don't forget the plus minus. We have both options that come out front. So as we simplify this, we have x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus radical 4 times radical 2 all over radical 5. Saving a few steps here, we're going to multiply by radical 5 over radical 5 to rationalize our denominator. This gives us x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus, square root of 4 is just 2, radical 2 times radical 5 is radical 10, and in the denominator, radical 5 times radical 5 is just 5. Add 1 to both sides, and x is going to equal 1 plus or minus 2 radical 10 all over 5. That would be our final answer with the work of solving this equation by completing the square. Let's go to our second example. So again, we want to get the variables on one side, the constants on the other. This will be a negative 1/3 x squared minus x is equal to a negative 7. And what we can do here to build a 1x squared is we can multiply through both sides of this equation by a negative 3. That way, on the left-hand side over here, negative 3 times a negative third cancels, it's just 1. We would have x squared plus 3x is equal to 21. So now, on the left-hand side, we complete the square. This will be x something squared. Remember, to figure out what number goes in here, what we do is take half of the number attached to x. So this would be 3/2. Square 3/2 to get this number, which 3 squared is 9, 2 squared is 4. We're adding 9/4. Whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other side of the equation. So we're adding 9/4 over there. Building a common denominator, 21 would be 84/4, and then we have plus 9/4. At this stage, we have x plus 3/2, the quantity squared, is 93/4. And we take the square root on both sides. Remember, square root of a fraction is the fraction of the square roots. Don't forget our plus and minus. So we have x plus 3/2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 93 all over. Radical 4 is simple. That's just 2. Can we simplify the square root of 93 at all? Well, 93 is going to be divisible by 3. It's 3 times 31, but there's no perfect squares that can work to simplify it. So all we do is subtract the 3 halves from both sides, get x is negative 3 halves, plus or minus the square root of 93 all over 2, and that would be our final answer. Follow these steps, solve quadratic equations by completing the square, and you should be good to go.